Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the Ecko Chamber. I am your host, Jay Echo. Welcome if you're new, and welcome back if you are a repeat visitor. And also, thank you. Thank you for coming back. This is something new that I'm trying. Just a solo. Me getting my thoughts out on the internet, see who's interested in listening, and also just work through some stuff. So today I wanted to talk to you. Well, let me before I continue, I'm gonna give you a little bit of context. So recently I've been doing some reading, and it's I as we've said, Phil and I have said multiple times, the internet is a wide and interesting place, and it has a whole lot of information that you can use either for good or for evil. But I've been doing some reading recently, in just for the sake of my own. Continuing my own personal journey and my own development and everything like that. So I've been reading up on a couple people, and I came across this guy, and I apologize if this section gets a little, esoteric or whatever the case may be, but I'm giving you a little bit of background, theoretical stuff, so that we'll start with the theoretical, and then eventually we'll spin it off into the practical. But so I've been reading this guy, and his name is Carl Jung, German dude. I believe they call him the father of modern psychoanalysis, right? So I've been reading this guy, and or not reading him specifically, but reading up on a couple of his theories, and interpreting them through the lens of stories that I've been watching and listening to, and all of that sort of stuff. But the one of the major things that Carl Jung talks about is this process called individuation. Um, and it sounds real complicated and everything like that, but essentially what individuation is the process that people go through to become the best version of themselves, essentially. And one of the keys to that process is something that Carl Jung calls integrating the shadow. I told you this was going to get esoteric. So, but integrating the shadow is in simplest terms, integrating the shadow is just taking all of those ugly parts of yourself that you try and hide, and you try and keep repressed, or whatever the case may be. It's taking all of that ugly, and essentially integrating it into your larger personality, your larger sense of self, essentially. Um, and that process is essentially, it requires you to, uh, in the context of Carl Jung, he refers to it as going on a journey, but essentially when he says that, he's talking about, or at least the way I see it when he says that, he's talking about just doing a whole bunch of self-reflection in the context of through the context of your experiences, your memories, your emotions, all of that sort of stuff, right? So you through this process of integrating the shadow, you do a whole bunch of self-reflection. You integrate all of those uglier parts of yourself, and you become sort of your perfect form, the best version of yourself. And like I said, that's the more esoteric version of it, the theoretical version of it. So, like I said, I've been attempting to understand this through the lens of some of the stories I've been reading or listening to, or things like that, right? And also through just my real life. And in episode one, last time I was here, I told you guys that I had my come to Jesus moment, so to speak, right? The moment where I realized, where I hit my breaking point and realized that, to get the kind of life that I wanted, I was going to have to do some serious reflection on who I was, what I wanted, and how and what I needed to do to get there, right? And all of that stuff that I just said, or that I did, that is, from my understanding, that is the process of what he calls integrating the shadow. That's the process of, reflecting, figuring out what those what those things about you are, and figuring out ways to channel them, to constructively use them to get to where you're trying to be, to get to where you're trying to go, right? And I know there are a lot of people who are perfectly happy with who they are, and I'm not, if you're happy with you, by all means, be happy. But one thing that I'm finding more and more is, the process of self improvement is just that. It's a process, and it's an ongoing process. Like, it doesn't stop, it doesn't finish, it doesn't it doesn't you don't just hit a point where you're just like, oh, I'm here now and everything's good. There's always going to be something, there's always going to be someone, there's always going to be, a situation that requires you to improve, to evolve, and to change, essentially. And so I've been discussing this with a couple people recently, and one of the questions that I keep getting is, if if sort of reaching our perfect form is a part of, requires all this self-reflection, then why does it feel like, when uh when we are on those personal journeys, that we meet so much resistance, not just from circumstances, but from people, and even people in our own lives, right? And it might not even be something they're doing on purpose, but it might just be, like a reaction that they give you, and you can tell, like, oh, they're not here with me on this, or they're not they're not interested in this part of my journey, and taking some time to think about it, the answer I came to, and this answer is ever evolving, it's ever changing. The answer I came to was essentially, we we're communal beings. We like to sympathize or empathize, or all of that, sort of synchronize, whatever thighs you want to throw in there. We like to feel like we are part of a group, part of the collective, even though we also have aspects of ourselves that we like to keep for us, that keep us individual. It's it's sort of a balancing act that we're all walking. But one thing that I've realized, not just in my life, but through observing the people around me, through hearing stories from friends and everything like that, is we we tend to undersell how much our associates uh, impact our identity, right? We tend to downplay how much another person, how much a loved one, or even how much somebody on the street can affect you, right? Or your idea of yourself. And one of and you know, I'm, as you can tell, I'm still working through this. I'm still working it out. Like that's why I say this is something I've been thinking about recently. But one of the things I've come to is you know, we need to acknowledge, the impact that those people have on us in order to better serve our own personal journeys. And I know that sounds a little selfish or whatever the case may be. You know, we're just looking at people as, you know, how they can help us along the way. But at the end of the day, you know, if you are the best version of yourself, you bring that version of yourself to the people around you. You bring that version of yourself to the people who surround you, right? The 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 whole point of being the best version of yourself isn't to keep it to yourself. It's so that you can share that with the world at large, right? So, you know, to anybody who's in that place right now where they're in the middle of their process, they're in the middle of their journey, and they're trying to make their way through, you know. I just want to say to you, and you know, if there's a, I guess, moral or an objective with this specific discussion, the biggest thing I want to say is, you know, all of those stumbles, all of those hiccups, all of those ugly parts of yourself that you see, that you hate, that you want to change, you know, they're all a part of you. Like your mistakes, your shortcomings, all of that sort of stuff. Yeah, you can work on them, but at the end of the day, they're still part of you. And learning to love those aspects of yourself is part of what's going to help you learn to love yourself as a whole, as a full person, you know. Because if you don't love all of those aspects of yourself, and this is something that I'm struggling with right now, which is part of why I wanted to get this out, you end up you end up limiting your progress. And you know, the one thing I don't want to do is take two steps forward and then take five steps back, just because, you know, I refuse to acknowledge all of the things that I have to deal with. So I mean, you know, thank you for listening. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was useful. To anybody who's listening who actually does do psychoanalysis or psychotherapy or whatever the case may be, uh, let me know if I got some stuff wrong. I mean, I know it's a long and complicated subject, and I sort of just barely scratched the surface. But you know, let me know your thoughts, comments. If you want to share anything, by all means, feel free. Like I said, the whole reason I started doing this was to start conversations. So thank everybody for listening. This has been the Ecko Chamber. I'm your host, Jay Ecko. Take it easy, y'all.